Death's Head will seek you out.
Do you know when?
No, and if I did, I would not stop it.
I understand, Monitor.
I wish you well.
I took an oath. And when the time comes, I'll meet the Death's Head and beat it back.
That spirit is why I chose you for this mission, Mordrid. But courage alone won't be enough.
Welcome to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. I am half of your host, Perry Constantine.
And as always, I am the other half, Derek Ferguson.
How you doing today, Derek?
I'm doing quite well, thank you for asking. And how are you doing?
I'm doing all right, but I'm a little. I got a little bit of a bone to pick with you because a few episodes ago you talked about what's going to happen next in 2020, and now things have seen. We got like two possible starts to World War III brewing with India and China, and then North Korea and South Korea, and then to top it all off, you got so on Twitter, you've been following the Ron Perlman thing.
Oh yeah, isn't that so?
Oh my God! So Ron Perlman, who of course is all right-thinking people know is a national treasure.
Yes.
He's a very progressive guy in real life, and he likes to mock the Republicans on Twitter. So he was mocking Matt Gaetz, who's a Republican congressman, best known for trying to storm a classified meeting during the impeachment hearings, and also for mocking the COVID-19 by wearing a gas mask in Congress right before he contracted COVID-19.
Yeah.
And
talk about irony, right?
And also apparently potentially being involved in the death of his roommate and multiple DUIs, which his rich daddy made disappear. So he's known for all those things. So, classy guy. And so Ron Perlman is mocking him on Twitter. And then Ted Cruz jumps in, another, who everyone suspects of possibly being the Zodiac Killer and is known for such stalwart acts of manliness as sucking up to Trump after Trump insulted his wife and mother and father.
And you know something? That is something, you know what? There's some things that you have to be a man about. I don't care what. That's just how I was raised. You don't let anybody talk about your wife or your father or your mother in that way and not walk up to them and punch them dead in their eye.
Right.
And the way he turned around and kissed Trump's ass, I have no respect for him. Well, I didn't have no respect for him before, but at least I could respect him as a man. But no, I could not even. Matter of fact, I don't even know how his wife lives with him after that.
Well, you know what? Apparently, not too long after, she was mad that they couldn't afford a second house. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? She wanted the second house so she could live in it by himself.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I would hope so. Because you know what? No woman I know would want to be with a man that spineless.
Yeah.
And then this whole thing is that, he's not even talking about him wrestling Ron Perlman. He's going to throw him at somebody else.
Exactly. He says, okay, yeah, you're such a man. Well, okay, tough guy. Let's see. I'm challenge you to fight that guy.
Yeah. Not even climb in the ring with me. No. When you're such a tough guy, you go fight that guy.
And it's and the guy he picks is Jim Jordan, who of course is also known for looking the other way on sexual abuse. So
yeah, that guy.
Just you could not pick like a bigger bunch of assholes to go up against Ron Perlman.
Ron Perlman, yeah,
but
exactly.
Then it gets better because none other than another national treasure, a guy we both love, who we talked about a lot last week, Dave Bautista, Drax himself, throws his hat in the ring, and he says, all right, Ted Cruz, I'll wrestle him. And meanwhile, Jim Jordan's being quiet about this whole thing. He's sitting back there, and he's just like, shut up, Ted, Ted.
Jim Jordan hasn't said shit, which says something to me, because this is a guy, normally, if there's a camera anywhere around or a microphone, he's going to get on it.
Yeah.
He hadn't said it. Nah, Jim Jordan, he don't want no parts of this.
Yeah.
he does not want no parts of it. Oh man, yeah, but you know what? I'm not saying nothing else. I'm not making no more predictions about this year, man. You know, my wife had told me, she said, just shut up. You know? Don't say it. Because, okay, I'm going to just say this. This reminds me of some movies I've seen. It does, you know, it sounds cliche to say that 2020 is like a movie, but yet there are some movies I've seen that just keep on getting more batshit insane. And that's what this year is.
Yeah.
Just when I think it can't get crazier, yes, it does. It gets crazier.
It's insane. And I don't even. Oh, and John Bolton's book came out, and now they're both threatening. Both Bolton and Trump are threatening to sue each other. And also then in comic book, taking this back to superheroes, Cameron Stewart got accused of he did this award-winning run on Batgirl a few years ago. He got us accused of like sexual assault, a kind of a sexual assault where he was like grooming 16-year-old girls to date. And then while everyone's talking about that, it comes out that Warren Ellis used to do something similar back in the day too, which is extremely disheartening for me because Warren Ellis was a huge influence on my writing. So
yeah, and as a matter of fact, I heard, you know, okay, I read that and I was even more doubly disappointed because I had just watched this documentary on Amazon Prime about Warren Ellis. And I was like, really, oh man, this guy got to, you know, reread Transmetropolitan and all this other stuff because I'd forgotten how good he is, you know, while watching the documentary. And I was like, oh man, I got to get back into Warren Ellis. And, you know, which again goes back to something that, you know, I have said to people, and, you know, I kind of preferred it back when we did not know a lot about the habits of, you know, writers and actors and okay, in one way it's good to expose, you know, some of these things that they've done. But there was a certain mystique that we had that, you know, we didn't know every detail of their lives. And, you know, I don't know. There's just something disheartening about finding out that people, you know, that you really like and admire, that they got a sleazy side to them. But again, you know, people are people, you know, they're just human beings. You know, maybe we shouldn't put them on pedestals.
Right.
You know, maybe it falls on us. Maybe we should just say, okay, well, you know what? They do shit I like, and, you know, that's it. And just leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about something more pleasant today, and that's this is your pick, which was an interesting little movie called Dr. Mordrid.
Yeah, I had heard about this movie for years. We talked about it very briefly when we were talking about the Doctor Strange TV movie, I believe. And like I said, I'd heard about this movie for years because apparently what it was, it started out as a Doctor Strange movie.
Right.
Charles Band, he of Full Moon fame. You know, that's a for those of you who don't know about Full Moon, it was one of these movie studios, like I believe it was around like during the late 80s, early 90s.
Right.
And they made like a whole slew of low budget movies. And as a matter of fact, it surprised me when I watched this movie. I did not know they had made this many movies, but they made so many that Tubi has its own Full Moon channel.
Oh, I didn't even see that on there.
Yeah. Well, that's why I went to watch it, you know, because who was it? Somebody told me, oh, well, Dr. Mordrid, it's, you know, it's on there. It's also on Amazon Prime, but I'm glad that I didn't have to pay the rental fee because this movie is only 74 minutes long.
Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know what Tubi is, it's one of these free apps that you can download, and they've got a lot of low budget B movies. So they've got, like, you know, in Full Moon they did like the Puppet Master movies.
They did the Trancers.
They did a bunch of other like these low budget horror films, basically.
Yeah,
and monster features.
Yeah, and that's how they made their mark. They did but I had no idea how many they did until, like I said, I went to Tubi and I'm looking at it, it's just a whole slew of these low budget, not even B horror movies. It's like C, D, E, and F,
Right. Yeah.
budget horror movies that they made. But they had, Dr. Mordrid on there. And I watched, and like I said, given the short running time of this movie, because this is more like a pilot for a TV series, really, than it is.
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking the same thing watching it. Is it felt a lot like a pilot for a TV series.
Yeah.
Which is what the original Doctor Strange movie that we talked about way back when was also supposed to be.
Right, absolutely. So the story goes is that Charles Band and his father, Albert Band, who both were partners in Full Moon, they they gotten the rights to do Doctor Strange. Or rather they had the option. But the option lapsed for one reason or another. And by then they had done so much pre-production work on this movie. They even had early concept art by Jack Kirby, according to Wikipedia.
Oh,
so,
okay.
They said, well, you know what, we're not going to scrap, the whole project. They just sat down and they just rewrote it so it was an original character. And you know what? Once again, I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised at the result. If I had no idea that this had any connection to Doctor Strange, I would never have guessed it because, they rewrote it and they rewrote it so skillfully that there's really, who's the writer's name? C. Courtney Joyner. Okay. This guy or girl, whoever he is, he was very skillful at rewriting this so that there really is no trace of Doctor Strange left in this thing. Except for him being, of course, a sorcerer.
Right, yeah. Yeah, they make him like kind of an immortal type figure because there's that one part where Cabal mentions like, you've been around for like over 100 years or something like that.
Yeah, well, he makes mention to his neighbor, Samantha Hunt, who's a police consultant. That's what she keeps telling us. That, every time somebody says, oh, you're a policewoman. Well, no, I'm a police consultant. For some reason, she really makes a point of that. But they meet cute in the hallway of the building, which distinguishes him from Doctor Strange in that he's got neighbors.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting twist too. In fact, he owns this building and he's got this big apartment of his own with it's like got all this mystic stuff in it. But he, he's also the landlord of this building, although nobody knows that he's the landlord.
Yeah, because at one point the old lady with all the makeup on her face, she makes reference to the fact that nobody knows who owns the building and that they've never seen the landlord. But he makes mentions when she says, oh, this must have been a nice place to live a couple 100 years ago. And he said, oh, yeah, well, it was. And she says, what? And the way he says it, we should mention, of course, right front and center, that Dr. Mordrid is played by the magnificent Jeffrey Combs.
Okay, so I don't really like Jeffrey Combs. I only really know him from Reanimator, I believe it was.
That's all you got to know him from.
Okay.
I mean, he's been in some other things, but yeah, if most people know him, that's where they know him from, the Reanimator movie. I think there was like 2 or 3 of them, if I'm remembering right. And he's
something
been
like that,
and he was in all of them.
Apparently, he also did the voice of the leader on the Avengers animated series, Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
But he also had a long run on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, where he played like a bunch of different characters. Well, the character that he played on there was, he kept getting killed. But since it was a race of clones and he was cloned, he kept coming back. Yeah, so he kept coming back. So
it looks like he had 2 roles on in the Star Trek universe. Because I see in Deep Space Nine, it was like, he had a butt. He was like Wayon or Brunt was his name.
Yeah, Wayun. That was, yeah.
But then also he had another run as beginning with Star Trek Enterprise as Commander Shram.
Well, I do believe, I'm not sure about this, but I believe that Combs, he's one of 2 actors to have played all of the aliens on some, because he played an Endorian, he played a Cardassian. He played, he's played like a whole bunch of different roles on Star Trek. So he's had an extensive career with them. So
also, here's something else. He was apparently the original Captain Cold back on the old Flash TV series from 1991.
Oh, okay. All right.
And he was also the voice of the Question in Justice League Unlimited.
Oh, and here's something else. Oh, okay. You remember on Twitter earlier today, I was asking about the 100?
Right, yeah.
And you said I must have got that confused with another show?
Right, yeah, because you were talking about...
I got it confused with the 4400, which Jeffrey Combs was also in.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I was wondering, like, what are you talking about? The 100's only been on the CW, and it's like only been around as long as the Flash.
Yeah, I totally got it confused with. So I said, wait a minute, hasn't this show been on for like forever? But no, I got it confused with the 4400, which, as I'm looking on the thing now, Jeffrey Combs was on. He was on that show too.
This also has Brian Thompson, who went on to he's played the bad guy in a bunch of different geek related stuff. Like he was in the Buffy premiere. He played like the Master's head vampire in that. He played Shao Kahn in the god awful Mortal Kombat Annihilation movie. And he had a run on the X-Files as like the alien bounty hunter.
Yeah, he was in the first Terminator too, I believe. He was one of the guys that Arnold Schwarzenegger, he took their clothes.
And, which is funny because the first thing I thought in this movie, and the first thing I think every time I see Brian Thompson is he looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger's stunt double.
Yeah. I mean, especially like in this movie, when you see him, you say, "Oh yeah, man, this guy."
Especially because he's wearing like the exact same sunglasses that Schwarzenegger wears in Terminator.
Yeah, and he wears his hair the same way too.
Yeah.
But Brian Thompson is one of them guys that's like been around forever, and he's very good at playing big, tough-looking bad guys.
Right. Yeah.
But here he has a level of sophistication. He's a little bit more articulate than I'm used to seeing him, to be honest.
Yeah. I was actually surprised. I don't think I'd ever heard his voice as much as I did in this.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I've seen him in other things where he has like a couple of lines, but in this one, I mean, like he actually has speeches,
Yeah.
and he gets to act, which I mean, we're not talking about, the level of, I don't know, the Marvel.
Right. This is not like Mads Mikkelsen and Benedict Cumberbatch here.
No, but I mean, for this budget and this material, he does, he acquits himself very well.
Right.
Speaking of budget, I really wish that they did have a little bit more money for this movie because, there's some stuff in here that's really very good. Yeah. That I enjoyed.
Yeah, they have that big battle at the end with them animating the dinosaur skeletons. And and they use like a stop motion animation for that, which it's not bad. I mean, but it does in retrospect it is one of those things that nowadays you can kind of see the seams.
Yeah, and it's kind of anticlimactic because what you want to see is that you want to see Mordrid and his arch enemy, because these guys have been waiting for hundreds of years to fight each other. You want to see them go at it. You don't want to see them animating dinosaurs and dinosaur bones and having them fight each other. You want to actually see them fight.
Right. You know what I was kind of getting the vibe on early on when I was watching this movie is not Doctor Strange, but Dr. Fate. Like the outfit he wears, it was very much making me think of Dr. Fate, and that scene where he first talks to the Monitor. I don't know, for some reason I just got like a very Dr. Fate vibe from it.
And you know what? Okay, the outfit that he was wearing later on, because he's wearing like that like gray kind of turtleneck and those black pants and everything like that. I said that's a better outfit than the one he was wearing earlier, the all blue one.
Yeah, that thing just like did not look good at all.
Yeah.
Especially because this movie is very much grounded, right? Just like the original Doctor Strange movie, which was also very grounded. But so when they have them in these, pretty stupid looking outfits, it really pulls you out of it.
Yeah. I mean, they really don't need the outfits. They really
don't. Because this isn't really a superhero movie, even though it was based on Doctor Strange. This is much more of like an urban fantasy thing.
Yeah. Yeah, this is as you say, it's but it's not that grounded because they have the part where Dr. Mordrid, he invites Samantha because she thinks that his apartment is on fire. So she calls the police and she calls the cops and they come and he opens up the door. And okay, well, what are you doing? Oh, I thought your apartment was on fire. Well, no, it's not on fire. And everybody goes home and he invites her in. And now, see, I live in New York, so I know that the first thing any real New Yorker upon seeing the size of his apartment would say, she would ask him, who do you know to have that apartment like this? Because this guy has got an apartment like Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, I said, well, is this like kind of like the Doctor Who type of thing where the inside of the apartment is bigger than,
Well, you know what I was thinking is, because I actually saw something like this here in Japan, where my ex-wife, one of her relatives, I think it was her uncle or someone, owned this apartment building. And, rented out most of the rooms. What he did was, like, it had, like, two sides to it, right? It was, like, one side, there were, like, 3 apartments on one side, 3 apartments on the other, stacked up one above the other, right? And what he did was he had taken like the 3 apartments on one side and he had just taken them all for himself and he had remodeled it so it was like a tiny house inside the apartment building.
Yeah. Because I mean, she walks in and she doesn't like blink an eye, at the sides of this place. I mean, the guy's got an ancient map of the world across one whole wall. He's got bookcases going 10 feet up into the air. And, all this arcane memorabilia that's all over the room. And she just walks in and it's like, oh, nice place. I said, what?
Yeah. And see what else I want to mention here. I don't know. I'm blanking on what I wanted to. Oh, you know what? I did like how. Well, also he mentions when he's in the questioning, he talks about the alchemy. So I'm thinking that also has something to do with how he's able to afford this kind of lifestyle because he's probably able to make gold for himself or something.
Yeah, he mentions that, and he's been around, like you said, that he makes mention earlier on that he's lived for like a long time. So you have to assume that in that time he's like accumulated a vast amount of wealth. Plus, he's getting rent.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's getting rent, which to me is a nice touch. In that they didn't have to say that, but she picks up an envelope. She's in the apartment. She picks up an envelope and she looks. She said, "Oh, wait a minute! This is my rent check." He said, "What are you doing with it?" And he just shrugs his shoulder. And she said, "Oh shit!" She said, "Oh, you're the landlord," and everything like that. It's a nice little touch that even though he is this sorcerer with infinite power and everything like that, and he knows alchemy and could probably turn lead into gold, he still collects the rent.
I mean, like personally, what I would do is I would just, I just convert that whole building for my own place then.
Well, yeah. But again, you go back to the thing about this being a grounded movie. He's not like Doctor Strange who wants to live in isolation. He wants to live around other people.
Yeah.
Even though he's not that sociable because again, the old lady says something like, well, I invited him to join the tennis association and he didn't want to do it and everything like that. But I think he just likes the proximity of being close to other people.
Yeah. And it's also interesting in that he doesn't shy away from, he doesn't try to hide the magic stuff.
Nah.
I thought that was kind of interesting touch. Like even when he's being questioned by Gaudio, he never tries to hide any of it, right? He's just like very open with it.
Yeah, and I love how he just, because they got the handcuffs on him. I like how he just so, matter of factly, he just takes them off and hands them to Samantha, like, I mean, yeah, well, I could have got out this shit anytime,
Yeah.
And then he puts them back on after he finishes, talking to her, and he's telling her, his whole history and how him and Cabal are destined to fight. And after they finish with all that, he says, "Okay, well, listen, I need you to go get my amulet." Because I really need that, because if I don't have that, I'm vulnerable and he could kill me. And while he's saying that, he's putting back on the handcuffs like, okay.
Yeah, and
But he doesn't make a big deal out
like
of
that
it.
was I think that was probably the biggest thing that came from when this was still a Doctor Strange movie is the amulet because that was very much like the Eye of Agamotto.
Yeah, and he's even got like an orb
Mhm.
in that box because like he opens up the box when he goes to talk to the monitor, who is never really explained who or what the monitor is. All we see is a pair of floating eyes in space.
Right.
But
Yeah.
apparently this is the being that has charged him with protecting Earth.
Right. It's basically the Ancient One.
Yeah, we just never see him. Yeah.
Right. Which I thought was kind of an interesting touch to give take this character who was supposed to be in a Marvel movie and give him the name of a DC villain instead.
Yeah. Yeah. When oh, wait a minute, monitor?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Maybe that was part of why I got the Dr. Fate vibe when that happened.
No, I mean, now that you mention it, yeah. I mean, it does have that kind of, feel, especially when he goes out. I like that floating prison he's got out in outer space someplace, and he goes out there and he visits the guy that he's got there. The blind guy, and he restores his sight.
Right,
He gives
yeah.
him new eyes, yeah. Because he's got all these demons in there locked up and everything like that. Presumably, all the demons over all these years. And he did have Cabal locked up on this floating island, but he escaped and got to Earth, which is where all this shit starts.
Yeah, the one survivor, he's the one who basically he's the guy who tells him, look, oh, he went that way.
yeah. Where'd he go? Well, he went that way. Yeah. By the way, thanks for the new eyes.
Yeah. I was also getting kind of a Highlander vibe when him and Cabal are talking in the apartment, especially when Cabal talks about the you've been around waiting for like 150 years. And but yeah, it felt very much like kind of the relationship. A lot of what he does, it feels a lot like Christopher Lambert in Highlander, because just like Lambert played kind of a recluse type character, but he had amassed all this money. He had this really nice place. He was kind of like this quirky, mysterious guy that this woman takes an interest in. So there was a lot of Highlander vibes I felt.
Now that you mention it, now that you bring it up, and yeah, he because we see there's one point where Mordrid, he's actually giving a lecture, much like wasn't there a scene in the first Highlander with Christopher Lambert? He was giving a lecture.
Oh yeah, Clancy Brown gave tons of lectures. Like he just ate everything. He just ate all that scenery.
Yeah. So yeah, now that you mention it, I can definitely see the Highlander vibe in this. Yeah. It's pretty good. Like I said, I was pleasantly surprised when I saw this because I saw Jeffrey Combs. I saw,
and also just like in Highlander, the woman in Highlander, she was also a cop or like connected to the police department. She was a forensic scientist.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, they seem to model forget Doctor Strange. In some ways, this seems more like a remake of Highlander.
It's more like Highlander, right? Yeah. I know now that we're going over it. Okay. Forget the Doctor Strange influence, folks. This is all Highlander. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, you know what else kind of struck out to me is at the beginning. Was it just me, or did the music at the opening sound a lot like the music at the opening of Batman Returns?
It did. It was not. Let me put it this way: it was not appropriate. That's not the music I would associate with a sorcerer.
Right.
This was like da 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 da, and I said, wait a minute, calm down.
Yeah,
because this isn't that type of. First of all, this is a pretty low key movie from start to finish. We're not talking about a high octane action movie here, folks. So
no.
Don't get your hopes up. It actually is pretty low key through the whole thing. Jeffrey Combs never raises his voice above like a normal speaking tone, I think. No matter what happens, he's right. He just like maintains this chill through the whole movie.
Well, same thing with Brian Thompson as Cabal. Like he doesn't really, even with all his speechifying, he doesn't raise it much to like that kind of super villainy type level a whole lot.
Yeah. I mean, supposedly it's the fate of the human race is at stake. And these guys are talking like they discussing a recipe for stuffed cabbage.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's on that level. They just never really like get really worked up about, you know, the stakes that they're fighting for.
Right.
So, which
Uh,
isn't to say that it's a bad performance. Jeffrey Combs, I actually like the fact that he is kind of low key. This is a guy who's been around for hundreds of years, so very little can stress him out at this point.
yeah. It works pretty well for this movie.
Yeah,
And you know, and it makes sense because you know he is, like you said, he's been around for all this time, so obviously it's kind of like a seen it all, done it all type of thing.
yeah. You know, nothing. The only time he gets kind of upset is when not accidentally, but he's arrested for murder, and even then he's upset because if he's not out there, he knows more murders are going to happen,
Right.
and he's pissed at the cop, who is an enjoyable character because every movie needs a lovable asshole, and that's what you know, this cop.
Yeah, he's Jay Acavone, who's also been in a lot of different stuff. He was apparently he was a regular on Beauty and the Beast, which with Ron Perlman and Linda Hamilton.
Okay.
He was in he played the DA, Joe Maxwell, over all 3 seasons.
Okay.
And he's also been in a few different other things. Like he was in a few episodes of the X-Files, I think. Yeah, just like playing minor character, 2 different characters in that. He was apparently in like the Dukes of Hazzard TV movie or something like that in 2000. He was on The Pretender. He was on Sliders. So yeah, he's been in a bunch of things like here and there.
Well, he's a lot of fun here because he's your typical bonehead cop. You know, he gets everything wrong. He arrests the wrong guy. He has no clue as to what's going on. You know, don't tell him nothing about magic because he doesn't know. I mean, the first scene that we see him in, he's talking to Samantha and he very clumsily, you know, like hits on her, you know, which of course she sees through, I mean, you know, like right away.
Right.
So, you know, but he's the guy that provides a lot of the levity, you know, here because we enjoy seeing him bumble around, at least until we get the other guy. I don't ever think they gave him a name. Is one of Cabal's disciples. He has 2 of them. He has a girl who he sacrifices, but he has this other joker.
Oh yeah, Adrian.
Who's just like, no matter what, he's down with it.
Yeah.
Cabal, he says, yeah, don't worry about it, man. I got you.
And yeah, he was not. He felt really out of place in this movie. Like he just felt like his bumbling felt like it belonged in a more I'm trying to think what I want to say. Like it doesn't feel like it fits this tone.
Yeah, and while usually, you know what, I don't have a problem with you know, language, it doesn't fit the tone of this movie at all.
Right.
When this guy just jumped, and he's just like dropping F-bombs, you know, left and right for whatever reason. I have no idea, you know. Just to be doing, I guess he was trying to show how tough and badass his character was. But you know, I felt that this movie didn't need it.
Yeah. Know? Same thing. But you know, overall, I thought it's not a bad movie. Especially when you consider what other Marvel movies were coming out around this time, because this was the era when we got like the 1990s Captain America, which was also direct to video, and you know, Roger Corman's Fantastic Four, which was never completely released, and all these other kind of like really low budget Marvel films that were being cranked out at the time because Marvel didn't really know how to manage their brands back then.
Well, yeah, this was around the time that they were, which is why they had such a hard time getting back all of their, you know, copyrights, everything like that, because they were like scattered pretty much all over the place. It was all different type, you know, different, which is why the common myth that people like to repeat ad infinitum is that the reason why they had Herbie instead of the Human Torch in the Fantastic Four cartoon was that the producers of that cartoon were scared that kids were going to light themselves on fire trying to like imitate the Human Torch.
Right.
Such was not the case. The Human Torch was the option for him was licensed out to a movie company who wanted to do a Human Torch movie.
Right.
And that's why, and the people that did this particular Fantastic Four animated series couldn't get the rights to the Human Torch back. So they created her. That's why they had Herbie.
Exactly. Yeah. And who ended up being introduced in the comics afterwards as well.
Yeah, exactly. They brought Herbie into the comic, which was okay with me. I liked Herbie.
Yeah, I never had a problem with him.
Yeah, I had no problem with Herbie.
And, it was kind of a nice little thing to have him in there in the comics. It was a nice little, I never really watched that cartoon, so I don't, because that was way before my time, but I do still kind of like chuckle when I see his appearances in the comics.
Yeah. I mean, I watch it, I didn't watch it regularly, but like if I was flipping through the channels and it was on, I wouldn't turn it off.
Right.
Huh.
Okay.
But anyway, getting back to what we were saying, so Marvel at this time, like, had their characters was scattered all over the place. It was, everybody had a different, the Marvel universe was broken up and it was scattered to the four winds in Hollywood, which is why you had all these different studios doing different Marvel movies.
Well, it's funny because I may have told the story before, but back in the early 2000s, me and my best friend at the time, we were talking about different Marvel movies that were coming out, because this is like the era of like X-Men and Spider-Man were coming out, and all these other properties have been licensed to different studios. And I asked him one day, I'm like, do you think we'll ever see an Avengers movie? And he said, no, it's impossible. Right? Because the idea was, because all these characters were owned by different studios. So we thought it would never be possible to have an Avengers movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then, fast forward 20 years later, and we've got, the Avengers like the biggest thing in Hollywood right now.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, listen, I never thought we would see it either. Really. If you had asked me, I would have said, nah, they'll never make an Avengers movie.
Well, you still owe people your retirement savings for all the people you bet that there would never be a Black Panther movie.
Oh, I'm still sending out checks behind that.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for mine, by the way.
Yeah, well, listen, I just got to the B's, believe it or not. From the time Black Panther came out till now, that was the A's. I'm just to the B's now. So, oh man. Yeah, every Saturday I devote 3 hours just writing and mailing out checks. The people I owe money to. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we want to mention about Dr. Mordrid?
Well, to be honest, there is not a lot to mention because, like I said, the movie's only 74 minutes long.
Right.
When I saw it, I said, wait a minute, this has got to be something. And as a matter of fact, what I did was that I said, okay, well, before I start watching this, let me go to Amazon. And I went to Amazon to see what the running time of their version was. Because I thought, well, maybe this is a truncated version that's been edited. So if it was longer, I was just going to go ahead. I was just going to pay $3 and rent it. But nope, the one that they got on Amazon is the same thing, 74 minutes. So, and then I did a little bit of research and I found out that, this movie is only 74 minutes. So I said, oh, okay. So, and that's another thing that lends to the feeling of this just being a pilot for a TV series, the extraordinarily short running time. But
what's interesting too is his like I was just looking up the writer, C. Courtney Joyner, who it is a man, it turns out. Turns out he's mostly like a Western novelist.
Really?
Yeah, he's got like a ton of he wrote like, what is this, like he was a contributor to a few Western anthologies. He wrote 2 novels, looked like they were in a shotgun series, a bunch of short stories. He even wrote like a few graphic novels. The Saga of Billy the Kid was one, and then he wrote a story in a weird Western anthology, it looks like. And in addition, he had done some B movie acting, some like kind of like uncredited type or like background type characters, extra type things, and then wrote a lot of scripts for Full Moon, it looks like.
Well, it just goes to show you one thing that I've always maintained, that if you're a talented writer, you can write anything.
Yeah.
Because I would have never guessed that it was a guy that wrote a Western,
Mhm.
wrote this thing, because it does feel a lot like somebody who is familiar with superheroes and the concept of, superheroes, that's who wrote this.
Mhm. Yeah.
This wasn't written by somebody that, felt like they had to, let me see, what's the word I'm looking for? Who was embarrassed by writing this material. This
Right.
is written by somebody who said, well, you know what? I'm going to write a story.
Mhm.
And that's what he did there. Because, this is a good story.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a very good story.
Well, I was nervous about this because I had the same feeling going into it that I had going into the original Doctor Strange that we talked about before, and that I thought it would be like the other early '90s types productions, or like with Doctor Strange, like the '70s type productions, back when people did not take this stuff seriously. So I was pleasantly surprised in both cases when it turns out no, the writers and the directors, they did actually take this stuff seriously.
Yeah. The acting, I have no problem with the acting, except, like we said, that one guy who is like kind of
Right. Yeah.
goes
Yeah.
a little bit overboard, to say the
Mhm.
least. But for the most part, the acting in this is very well. The production values, especially, the apartment.
Mhm.
My God, that apartment is. Wow, I would love to live in that apartment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Me too.
Dr. Mordrid lives in. Yeah, he's got that cute little raven, Edgar Allan,
Yeah.
which I thought was kind of cute.
It does kind of feel like but like we said, it does, I think the not really a failing, but just like an observation is that the production values and all that, it does feel like something that was supposed to be for the pilot of like a syndicated Saturday afternoon TV show.
Yeah, because it sets it up with the cutesy neighbors,
Mhm.
the old guy with the dog, the old woman bickering back and forth.
Right,
We've
yeah.
got the cop who, says, well, I'm going to get Dr. Moore. I'm going to get him. I'm going to get
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
Set him up as kind of like an antagonist, kind of thing.
Right.
There's the girl, because Dr. Mordred, he tells her at the end, he said, well, you know what? Wherever they send me, I'm going to need help. And she
Right.
says, okay, well, you got it. So, okay, well, we got these two going off and battling various, mystical menaces. So, yeah, it's a very, this is the sort of thing that I like to call a TV pilot on steroids.
This is something I could easily have seen being with, like, if they'd made a TV show about this, it could have easily been like a Saturday afternoon hour block with like Poltergeist: The Legacy.
Oh, I'd have watched it every. Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. If this was a TV series, yeah, I'd have watched it every Saturday. No problem. I'd have. Matter of fact, I would have looked forward to watching this.
Yeah, yeah.
It's that good.
It's one of those things where it's not like one of the big primetime things, but it's one of those like syndicated shows that you just can't stop watching.
Yeah, and like during the big syndication boom, that's usually what I was doing anyway on Saturday afternoon. If I wasn't, I was sitting in front of my TV watching all of these half-hour syndicated shows that they
Yeah.
had. And yeah, I could easily see this as being, as you say, Saturday afternoon. This would have been a great Saturday afternoon show, to watch.
Well, I
So-
remember, Poltergeist: The Legacy, I'd only seen a few episodes of it, but I remember really liking it.
You know what I really like? I don't know if a lot of people remember this, but there was a Friday the 13th TV show.
Yeah, they did, wasn't it an anthology show or something?
No, this was the one where they were looking for the curse. It had nothing to do with Jason at all.
Oh, okay.
was
So the anthology was the Nightmare on Elm Street one, Freddy's Nightmares.
Right, Freddy's Nightmares. That's what
Yeah.
you're thinking of. Yeah, that was the anthology one.
Right.
The Friday the 13th, it was a guy with his two young assistants, and he ran a curio shop. And
Yeah.
they was running around getting the cursed objects back to put them back in the shop. It had absolutely nothing to do with the movie at all. The only connection it had was that occasionally they would show you a shot of Jason's mask was in the shop.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
funny because it was originally supposed to be titled The 13th Hour, but the producer was like, no, we gotta get the Friday the 13th name on it to get in audiences. Which, for me, if I was a Friday the 13th fan and I turned in to watch this series, I'd have been pissed off and I never would have watched it anymore.
Well, you know what? I think that's what happened. It turned off a lot of fans of the movies who wanted, of course, they expected to see, Jason, stuff like that. But for people like me who didn't particularly care for the movie anyway,
Yeah.
I liked the TV show.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It was a strange thing. Yeah. It was made it had the name of one of the most popular horror movie franchises of all time, but it was not made for fans of the franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was actually both this and Poltergeist: The Legacy. Well, this was on back in like 87 to 1990. It says here, but it was a huge influence on like the later supernatural TV shows that come out, like Buffy and Angel and X-Files, Warehouse 13, like a bunch of stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
So like I mean that it did kind of like create the mold for those things.
Mm.
And David Cronenberg even directed an episode of it. Looks like
Of what?
of Friday the 13th, the series.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So
Cool.
I'm curious about these. I'm gonna have to see if I can track this down.
Listen, nowadays nothing is lost. I'm sure with a little bit of research, you'll be able to find this. Like you might find it on this damn Tubi.
Yeah. This is probably well, I mean, it looks like they got the whole thing on sale on Amazon for like $20.
Really?
Yeah. DVD, so not the digital stuff, but yeah, it looks like they got it up on there for like $20.
Oh, okay.
And that's pretty good for all 3 seasons. So
Yeah, for all 3 seasons. Yeah, that's not bad at all.
mm-hmm. All right, I think we're kind of like moving off the topic anyway. We kind of stopped talking about Dr. Mordrid, but like you said, there's not really a whole lot more to talk about because it was so short. But it is, it's free to watch. It'll only take up about a little more than an hour of your time, and all you got to do is you download the Tubi app and you can watch it yourself for free. So there's really no risk to this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you guys have been listening to us talk about, Doctor Strange in both the big budget version and, the TV version. And I recommend this, first of all, because of the connection with Doctor Strange, that it started off as a Doctor Strange project. And second of all, it stands on its own. Dr. Mordrid is a character that stands on his own, and this is a movie that stands on its own.
Right.
The best recommendation that I can give is that when I finish watching this, I wish there had been more Dr. Mordrid movies or a TV series. Mm-hmm. That's the best recommendation that I can give.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so last one was your pick, and now it's back to me, and I actually did not come prepared this time, so I'm looking through my list.
All right. I'm not the only one.
No, you're not the only one. I don't know, whatever it was, I was just kind of scattered this week because I forgot to even create the Zoom link until like 20 minutes before we were supposed to start recording.
I know. Well, you know what? I understand because it's been that kind. You know what? Like the last couple of weeks with everything that's been going on, is it any wonder that we're all like kind of discombobulated?
Oh no, not at all.
Because I had to ask my wife 2 or 3 times. I said, "Today is Wednesday, right?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "I don't know. It's just like I'm not, sure." And then, like we used to have a set schedule where it was certain things that we did like on certain days. But of course, with the coronavirus, we don't go out like we used to do, those things that we used to do, So,
right.
Yeah, sometimes I do lose track of days. I mean,
yeah.
Honestly, I do lose track of days.
Okay, I got one here. All right, so because of all the Ron Perlman stuff, I thought we might as well do a Ron Perlman movie, show him a little bit of support. So,
hey, fair enough.
So next week, I think we should talk about Ron Perlman's big superhero role, the role which a lot of people say he was pretty much born to play, and that's Hellboy.
Ah, Hellboy. Yeah, Hellboy. I actually saw that movie. I went to a sneak preview. That's where I met Tom DJ.
Oh, really?
We met, and guess who I sat next to?
Ron Perlman?
Nope. F. Paul Wilson.
That name sounds really familiar, but I'm blanking.
He's a writer. Look it up. Some of the people out there now go, "What?" Yeah. Yeah, Tom introduced me to him.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, but that was that movie was where I me and Tom met in person for the first time. But yeah, Hellboy. Yeah, and matter of fact, I'm glad. You know what? It's been so long since I've seen that movie. It'll probably feel brand new.
Well, it's one of those movies that's consistently entertaining.
Oh yeah, I have no doubt.
I remember I had never read a Hellboy comic before I saw that movie, and I came out of it loving it. In fact, when I actually did end up reading the Hellboy comic, I was actually a little bit disappointed because it wasn't as good as the movie.
You and me both. I'm glad you said that because when I saw it, I knew nothing about the character.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything about it. All I knew was that, well, this was a free movie. I was gonna go, so it was a free movie. I wouldn't see. And when I came out of it, I said, "Holy shit!" And I went and I read, and I was kind of disappointed because I loved the movie so much, and the movie was so entertaining, and the comic book, I was like, "Well, this isn't like the movie."
Right? Yeah. And I think that might be. It might have just been like because that was the early stuff I read, so maybe he had to grow into it.
Yeah,
because I heard from Hellboy fans who've read like the complete series that the movie was a perfect adaptation. So,
which is what I think led to the huge success of the movie because I really can't think of anybody that I know that doesn't like Hellboy. Even people don't read comic books and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I know seeing Hellboy, they love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and a large part of that has got to do with the performance of Ron Perlman.
Oh yeah, he's like I didn't know Ron Perlman by name. I want to say that. But I had memories of watching Beauty and the Beast when I was a kid, so I remembered him from that. And so, but I didn't really know who he was at the time. And then after watching that movie, like pretty much everybody else who understands that Ron Perlman's a national treasure, I fell in love with the guy.
Oh yeah, he's the man. I love Ron Perlman. I love
Ron
Perlman. So we're gonna do Hellboy.
Yeah, so next week we'll do Hellboy. We'll talk more about how amazing Ron Perlman is, so you guys can hear us talk about that. And it's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay then.
All right, that does it for us today. Head on over to our group, Superhero Cinephiles. Join the conversation. I don't think I mentioned this on this show, but the two true you talked about Tom DJ a few times here, and he does a podcast, the Two True Freaks podcast. Man, that's kind of a tongue twister. And he's been doing this thing where he gets a bunch of different podcasters to come on and do a comics draft. So we're like each round we were picking a different character to be on our superhero team. Then we pick like the villain and the creative team and all that. So this is the first one he's doing, and it's the Justice League. So I've been contributing to that as well. So
you've been doing that?
Yeah. I've been contributing to that. So
cool.
If you go over to their website, you can find out about that.
Again, I'm not doing it because as we were talking earlier, folks, this is stuff that you don't hear. I am cursedly lazy. So
well, yeah, and I'm thinking like they're talking about doing a second season and doing another one. I think I'm gonna have to bow out of that just because it's these short segments, but it's tough to find time to even do something short these days.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, so like I got Tommy Hancock sending me messages right now asking when I'm gonna turn in the next Pro Se project that I gotta finish formatting for him.
Oh, okay. It's not my book, is it?
No, it's not your book. If it was your book, I wouldn't be lazy on it.
Oh,
because I know you're accountable. Because I'm accountable to you. You know more where I live. So
yeah, you daggone right. No, but I know but he sent me a cover a while back, and he said, "Oh, well, how do you like this cover?" I said, "Oh, pretty good." I said, "Well, who's going to do the logo?" And I told him, I said, "Well, if Perry's not doing nothing," I said, "Ask him to do the logo if he's not doing anything." That's for Diamondback.
Oh yeah. We talked about that a while back. So whenever he gets around to doing that, I'm going to be doing that cover. So.
Okay, cool.
But with how things get delayed a lot with.
Yes,
there, so.
I do.
Okay, so that does it for us. Head on over to Superhero Cinephiles, join the Facebook group, join in the discussions. I actually just posted something. Did you see what I posted there? That this guy had done these like unified cover arts for all of the Infinity Saga MCU movies.
No, I haven't seen that yet.
Oh,
remember I told you I was having problems with my computer earlier.
Oh, right,
so yeah. So I've just got it back online, about an hour before me and you started, so
Mhm.
I haven't seen anything yet. But I'm gonna go take a look at it right now.
Oh yeah, it's he did like all these covers. They're all basically like very similar to the Infinity War poster, but each one is specific to each of the MCU movies, and it's amazing. Like this guy put a lot of work into this.
Oh, okay, good. I'm looking for. Okay, I'm going. Like I said, when we're done here, I'm gonna go right over and take a look at it.
Okay. All right, so that does it for us. Thanks so much for listening. Come back next week, and we'll be talking about Hellboy.
Okay, good night. God bless. And remember, the coronavirus is still out there, so wash your hands, use your hand sanitizer, wear your mask, be safe, be careful, and above all, be smart.
Absolutely. Very
good night.
advice,
God
yeah.
bless.
Thanks for listening to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. If you have any questions or comments about this or any other episode, or if you have a superhero movie or TV show you'd like us to cover in a future episode, you can email us at superherocinephiles@gmail.com, or you can also visit us on the web at superherocinephiles.com. If you like what you hear, leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. Each review helps us reach more potential listeners. You can also support the show by renting or purchasing the movies discussed, or by picking up our books, all of which can be accessed through the website, as well as find links to our social media presences. The theme music for this show is a shortened version of Superhero Showdown, a royalty-free piece of music courtesy of FezleonStudios.com.